We're back with another episode of the Todd Durkin Impact Show. My name is Todd Durkin, and man, I am actually really excited to talk to these two men today. I have Pastor Gino Mingo and Jeff King in the house. What's up, gentlemen?
Hey.
What's going on, TD?
How you doing, D?
Good to hear your voice, both of you. Gino, as America has been under so much just pain the last couple weeks, today I wanted to take a little different spin with the Impact Show. As you know, we always love to bring value and motivation and inspiration, but one of the things I've committed to always bring you is something that I believe can help all of us deeper, help our hearts, help our minds, help our souls. And today I want to have a conversation that we can really just begin that conversation to go even deeper when it comes to racism and bigotry and hate and anger and these things. And I want it to be real talk. One of the things I've shared as a white man and as a leader is I want to make sure that I can have these conversations with my brothers and sisters in the Black community. And I want to give Gino and Jeff today the opportunity to speak and just to converse. This isn't a debate. This is a conversation that we can just continue to have. And maybe some questions I ask them are some of the same questions that you may have, or some of the points that Jeff or Gino has would be different thoughts that you have. So I hope this begins a conversation, right? And I've committed to getting better. And I think it's something that all of us as Americans right now that we can certainly commit to getting better. So Jeff and Gino, thank you for being here today.
Appreciate it.
Oh man, thanks for having us.
Opportunity, man.
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, Jeff has been a standout trainer for many years at Fitness Quest 10. If you've ever been to Fitness Quest 10 here in San Diego, you've seen his shining face. Jeff, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself so our listeners get a better idea of Jeff King?
Well, thank you once again, TD, for this platform. Let's start off here. I was raised in a military family. My dad was in the military for 31 years in the Navy. So, at an early age, I was exposed to a lot as far as from a cultural diversity standpoint. So that kind of just helped me shape my views and morals in terms of how to treat people and see people all the same way. But I've had a passion for health and fitness all throughout my life, and, committed myself around my junior year of high school to go in the strength and conditioning field, So graduated from Eastlake High School, went to UC Davis, got my graduate degree from San Diego State, and started Fitness Quest 10 way back when in 2007. It's crazy. I had no kids, hadn't finished graduate school, and now that's changed. So
you were like 12 back then, right?
Yeah, I was a baby. Yeah, exactly. I was a prodigy. I was a trainer prodigy for real. But it's been a great journey. At my 13 years here at Fitness Quest, I've met so many great people and learned so much from everybody, and had such a great positive experience. So, I love where I'm at, been able to grow, professionally, spiritually, personally, and gone through many trials and tribulations. So I'm just glad I'm able to be here to tell them, to share them with everyone. And the FQ10 community has been great source for me when I've gone through some tough times. And Geno's would be attest to this as well as you, Todd. So having that family and backing, and especially now with everything going on, it's now more than ever, we need that support from all areas. So that's where I'm at. I'm just, in this situation where I want to continue to grow in all phases, but that's just a little bit about me. And here I am, man.
That's great, Jeff. Well, it's great to have you. And we got Pastor Gino Mingo here. And interesting, Jeff is a trainer coach at Fitness Quest 10. And Gino, actually, he's got several roles and titles. Number one, he's a client member at Fitness Quest 10. He's a friend of mine. He's also someone I like to whoop up on Rebounder and beat on a every Friday basis when things are normal. We get to in a Rebounder game. And
now I got a witness on this. I got a witness on here. Jeff can attest to what happens.
So, background about yourself.
Oh yeah, well, as Todd said, I'm a pastor. Been that since about 1993. played a little bit of football, a short stint in NFL Chiefs, went to Canada for a couple of years. I have an extensive just family history in the NFL. My dad was an original Denver Bronco, and really experienced a great deal of racism in his football at that time. I was born in '65, so the civil rights movement, desegregation. My mom experienced a great deal of racism in the Denver public school system and things that I grew up in. But God did something in my heart when I was a child to where, you know, what he imparted into me really became like Teflon to not allow this insidious thing we're talking about today to penetrate to the point where it affects the way that I can love people.
And when you talk about that, Geno, how old were you when you first had your experience with racism?
Oh gosh, I was a child. I remember being in I've been in the first grade, and I was standing in line. We're in the bathroom, and the little boy cut the line, and I remember saying to him, he was white. I was like, "Hey, you cut the line," and he turned to me and he said, "Shut up," and I said, "No, you shut up." And the teacher was standing there watching, and the whole thing. And as soon as I said shut up, the teacher literally backhanded me in my mouth. And she didn't hit the little white boy, she hit me. And I remember I had to call my mom, and my mom, who's a school teacher, left school. And, you know, she was just an angry mama bear and came up to the school, and the lady literally locked herself in her classroom because my mom was like, "Come out here, I need to talk to you." And, you know, end up transferring schools. And so, experiencing that, and even at a younger age, even a year before, just stuff with which kind of was catalytic in my parents getting divorced and things of that nature. So it started early on, TD. It started at a young age.
Okay. Well, you, Jeff, when did you first experience racism, would you say?
I'd probably say 7 or 8, where I had a specific incident where, you know, I was in the neighborhood and I was, you know, play fighting, whatever, and then kind of a little out of hand. And then it was a white boy. He was probably a couple of years older than me. And we were tussling, and he, you know, basically came out and said out the N-word, you know, just out of the blue, you know. So it was one of those things where, you know, I was like, wow, you know, I wasn't expecting that, you know. So from that point, I kind of raised my awareness, like, okay, you know, things are, you know, that's definitely surprised me, and told my dad about it. And that's when he kind of had to talk about what's going on and everything like that. So, but throughout, you know, it's been little things. And I haven't, you know, I've been fortunate where I've been on military bases, and, you know, so we've had a lot of cultural diversity. So I haven't been exposed to it directly, you know, and as far as that in comparison to Geno, and I'm in a, you know, different times where things have gotten to a degree better. But, you know, I still get little things like, you know, if I'm walking down the street, you know, and there's a white woman, she'll clutch your purse, you know, or, you know, I'll tell people, you know, if I'm having general conversations with, you know, with white people in regards to my educational background, they kind of raise my eye like, "Oh, really? You went to UC Davis? Oh, really? You got a graduate degree?" And I'm like, you know, internally, like, why is that surprising to you? Why is that eyebrow being raised? Because, you know, because I have a formal education. No reason to be like that. So just little subtle things like that, you know, reminds me like, okay, you know, there's still that out there, that subtle racism, that people have this, you know, pre-notion or this, you know, idea of how African-American is or should be, you know. So that's been my experience, just little things like that, even throughout, you know, as I've gone up the educational ladder, so to speak.
Thanks for sharing, both of you guys, on that. I want to talk specifically about George Floyd. It's been one heck of an emotional just week and a half since this happened. Geno, can you just share right now your thoughts with the George Floyd incident?
When I get down to the nitty-gritty of it, Todd, what I see is our lack of ability to value all human life. I can't help but think of biblical pictures, biblical thoughts, things that I've read that just showed how much God wants us to value human life. And, you know, they describe that as a modern day lynching. I mean, when this man puts his knee on that person's neck for 8 minutes for no reason, when they're handcuffed and there's no way for them to escape, there's no way for them to fight, to resist, and you found in your heart some way to justify that your knee was okay on that person's neck. That lets me know, far beyond the 7 layers of your sin, the darkness of your heart, that you would feel justified in your heart to do that to a human being.
True.
And so for me, it comes down to value. It comes down to valuing a human being beyond look like, you know, beyond how tall, how fat, how skinny, how dark, how light, how bright, how smart. It's just so beyond that to me. And so I feel the rage of people. And with my worldview, from just the place of Christianity, it hurts me even more deeply because I understand how angry, how hurt. I feel it. I have moments throughout the day where tears come to my eyes. I'll see something social media wise and crying out, and I hear pain. But what I don't see is them being given legitimate solutions that can bring lasting change. And so it just feels all the more the burden to want to reach out and stand with people like you and Jeff to see how can we turn this tide? How can we bring impact, as you talk about all the time? How can we get people's minds right? How can we do what can we do? We've had enough lip service. We've had enough lip service. Right. We got to get some feet service in here. We got to pick them up and put them.
And now, and I want to talk about that later on, the action steps, because I think you're absolutely right, Geno, when it comes to, lip service. And I think part of the conversation even today is it's just starting the conversation of like, how do we get better? How do we go deeper? What can we do? And specifically here in the white community, what can we do to number one, better understand, and that's how I want to have this conversation today, is number one, better understand so that we can be more vehicles of change. And the hate that has gone on for hundreds of years, and the oppression, suppression, all of the things that have happened, there has to be change. There has to be change. And instead of just saying that, it's what can be done. And I want to make sure we get to that. Jeff, how about yourself as far as George Floyd and that modern day lynching, as Geno said, which is very accurate. Your feelings, I'm sure you've been wrestling with all the emotions as well. What's your heart say?
I had a bunch of emotions going through, initially, obviously anger, just the deplorable display of humanity that was there, caught on camera. Anger because of the 3 police officers acted like it was just normal. And I don't know if I'm more upset with the action of the kneeling on the neck, or the fact that the officers didn't do anything to get him off of his neck.
Right.
True.
Because that's just, to me, that's almost a greater crime than the crime itself, because you're literally seeing someone beg and plead for his life.
You're absolutely right. And Jeff, have you guys done this? Here's what I've done. Okay, number one, I don't think I'd ever be in that position where I'm kneeling on someone's neck. But if I was the other guy watching, I was like, what would I do? I would first probably say, get the heck off get off of him. And then if he didn't, you would jack him up. Like, what are you doing? Like, I played that narrative in my head. Like, what would I do if I know the answer would be do nothing. Like those 3, like, I don't get how that happens. I don't understand that as a white man, as a man. Like, I don't understand how anyone could let another person die. I wrestle to this day of like, what? Number one, okay, the other guy, that's murder, period. The other 3 cops, I don't get how you can watch anyone die and not do anything about it. That baffles me. It baffles me.
See, my problem, even at a deeper level with that, TD and Jeff, is when you look at one of the cops, he was, if I'm not mistaken, was of Asian descent or at least mixed in that sense. And they looked different. And so I started even going, if you, let's say, remove what I would call the sin factor, which darkens our heart, just on an idealistic sense, we stood there one day, us three men, and we pledged and we vowed to uphold, or we put this badge on our chest and this uniform, which meant I actually have an oath to that over my brotherhood and camaraderie to you, that if you do something wrong, I'd let it slide just because we're brothers in blue. So at the moment, I'm looking and going, you even exalted this brother in blue code that's not written in ink. It's just something we do in the locker room getting dressed, and it's said in the room before we send you out into the streets.
Yep.
We're resonating you that we made a vow, an oath. It's like a doctor saying that I vow to do no harm. I said I'm vowing to protect and serve. But yet, and so I watched you violate everything we swore to. And that's what I'm saying. We're so corrupt in the way that we value life, the way we view things, the way we tip the scale in our favor. I have a saying, what the heart chooses, the mind justifies. I wish I could peer into the minds of the three standing and go, what in the world was in your heart justified a mind that it was okay for you to watch someone just take someone's life unjustly? It's incredible to me. It brings it's insane, man. It's just wrong. I don't even.
What would you guys say is the answer when it comes to the police brutality? Because number one, we know that it has to change. It has to change. I also know there's obviously, like anything, there are many good cops. I have friends, both white and black, who are police officers who are very good. But what would you say needs to change so that we don't have this continue to happen?
Well, I think, initially or right away, we just need to have some type of, independent review board, for cops. And the standards that we hold them to needs to be, raised to a very high level, and have a stronger screening process, because we're having all these, these cops, or these contingent of cops who are clearly abusing their power and of being in the position of protecting and serving and going way beyond what that entails, So I think just starting from the top and then just kind of clearing out all the bad cops, because, like I said, we understand there are a lot of good cops, but it doesn't matter because the bad cops are the one that's ruining it for everyone. So I just think having stronger guidelines or review boards to make sure that we weed them out and they're not in a place to do this. And before they get to that point, they're not either they're kicked out or they're not even hired as a cop.
Yep. Gino, were you going to say something?
And I'd like to say, really, I'd like to say, and the people you have on those review boards, they got to be eclectic so that you have people looking for different things, because everybody's not going to see it. Just a quick story. I have a dear friend. He's a pastor in Chantilly, Virginia. He's been the Washington Redskins chaplain for maybe 20 years. Daryl Green, a good friend of mine in his church, on his staff, different things. And for years has worked with them. Sean, the head coach of the Rams and everything. He literally was brought in Chantilly, Virginia, to be on a board to review for policemen they were going to make officers, because they wanted to vet them. And the thing I was going to agree with Jess is there has to be, with Jeff, more strenuous vetting, almost like when they vet presidents and they vet people, and because it's too easy for us to hide what's in our hearts. And what he did, it was so amazing when he told the story, is that when they bring these officers, these policemen before them, and a lot of times those that had been in this field of being a policeman, they were looking for certain things, but my friend was looking for different things. So when they would go on and meet and go, okay, what did you see? He was bringing things to view and pointing out the responses coming out of these people's mouths. that these other people weren't accustomed to even thinking about looking for. And therefore, it made it more strenuous, and it made it to where you started seeing beneath the surface and going, you know what? There's some blind spots there.
Yeah, amen.
And if we don't start to get to a place where we start to help their blind spots, don't break this. So the board, not only strong, but you got to have eclectic people. You need a pastor on there. You need maybe a lawyer on there and a judge. And then, yes, people that are police chiefs and other people so you have different circumspect views coming in and seeing this, because you're going to hear something differently than I hear it, Todd. And Jeff's going to hear it differently than how I heard it. And now we bring it all to the table. And we can go, yeah, I don't think that person, they might need some more training.
Yeah.
They may need some more. They may need this. I don't think would be able to lead that eclectic locker room of policemen getting dressed together every day to go out, protect, and serve the right way, because he doesn't see things. He doesn't see the potholes down the road. He doesn't see where the bridges are out. We need that. It has to be way more strenuous.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the prayer, I know, is that they continue to work on and them getting better as well, all of us. But I've already started to see some reform, at least talk about it on that. And I know there's been some different reports of it. So I think those are great points by both Jeff and Geno. Jeff, question for you. You've been at Fitness Quest 10 for 13 years, and you're well loved by both teammates as well as our clients and members. I'm curious, since George Floyd's killing, what have your interactions been like? Obviously, we're still in the midst, as we're recording this, that we're still in the middle of COVID-19. Like our businesses are still shut down. What have your interactions been like with any of our teammates or any of our clients or members?
I've had a lot of interactions with both members and teammates in various situations. I had one person, a client, that basically asked, she made a comment about the looting, and she couldn't understand the rioting to the degree that it's happening. So I basically explained to her, look, I'm not for looting. I'm not for destroying businesses, especially our own. That's just not right. But you have to understand the context of where it's coming from. We as a Black community, we're tired. We're sick and tired of seeing our young men and women being killed, murdered for no reason other than the color of our skin, and unarmed, and no reason other than that. So you get to a point where you get fed up. We've tried, peaceful protests. People have a problem with that. We've tried, hashtags. People have a problem with that. It's okay, you get to a point where, what are we supposed to do as a community? Because you're not hearing us, So, as I said, am I promoting, to go out there and have these violent protests? No, but at the same time, you have to understand the anger that's being festered, that's internally, that's been going on for years and years. And if you talk to some people, Todd, people are surprised this hasn't happened sooner, quite frankly, because this has been going on way too long, So that's one angle. I've had clients that have come up to me and just, want to just hear my viewpoint and just become educated, So I talked to them, and some of them would immediately say, hey, I didn't know it was that severe and that much of a problem in our society.
Right.
And you got to understand, and I don't necessarily blame them for that, because if it's not in front of your doorstep, does it move you? No, probably doesn't. Not saying that you don't, you condone it, but if you're not in your doorstep, it's easy to kind of walk away from it. You kind of look in it, you take it in, and then you kind of just go about your business. So, the fact that it wasn't in front of them, they just, weren't, really able to really soak in the significance and severity that's going on, and I told them, this systemic racism that's just been, in our society for years and years. Go back to my dad. He was a Navy captain. So if you know anything about the military, naval officer, that's about as high as you can go. The next thing would be admiral, which is nearly, just you have to be in a long, long time, right place, right time.
Right.
And, so my dad came in the Navy in 1971, and then worked his way up. Even at the rank of captain, he still dealt with racial issues. You know, people talking to him away as if they were a higher rank than him. Now, this is a Navy captain, 30 years in the Navy, still dealing with that. You know, so it just goes to show you that, you know, yes, we made strides in certain areas. Yes, we have, but we have a long, long way to go. And part of it is becoming educated and understanding how we got to this point. It's not like we just showed up and like, okay, we're just playing for no reason. No, there is a reason why, and we've been yelling for years, and people, you know, especially people in the white community, have not heard us. They just chose not to. It just it is what it is. Because it's not like all of a sudden we just raising our hand, yeah, this, you know, we're complaining. No, this is our cry for years and years. And finally, hopefully, God willing, that people are starting to hear us and actually want to listen and want to be accepting of what we've been trying to express.
Yeah. Well said, Jeff. Well said. Do you have any thoughts on what Jeff said? Any follow up?
You know, it's funny, and you know me, Todd, everything for me is going to tie back to different things I see. I can't help get out of my mind this thought of who is my neighbor, which I saw in the Bible. Jesus was talking, and a lawyer, expert in the law, says to him, he goes, hey, everybody wants eternal life. You know what I mean? Who wouldn't want to live forever, right? How do I get eternal life? And he says, well, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And it says that the lawyer, wanting to, here we go, justify himself as Jesus, who's my neighbor. And when you look at that Greek word, the weightiest definition is your fellow human being is your neighbor. And so Jesus proceeds to tell the famous parable of the Good Samaritan. Now, here's the interesting thing. Right there, Jesus starts addressing, without realizing it, this privilege has been around forever. It's been around forever. This was Jewish privilege now we're dealing with. Here's this Jewish man who's being racist towards a Samaritan. And a Samaritan would be the equivalent of my daughters or Jeff's daughters, who are mixed, who are biracial kids. The Samaritan is Jewish and Assyrian. So these Jewish lawyers want to know, well, who's my neighbor? Who am I supposed to love? And then all of a sudden Jesus goes, well, you know, this one man got robbed by some Jewish people. In other words, there's your looters. There's your rioters. And they beat him down severely. But then here comes a priest, the one person who's supposed to do something, and he crosses the street. Then here comes a Levite, another person like the cop or the guy who drags his feet to indict these cops. Or here's another person who's supposed to do the right thing, but they cross the road and don't do the right thing. And then here comes the one person who the person getting beat up. Had he not gotten beat up, it's kind of what Jeff was saying. See, if it doesn't get to your front door, you don't care. See, if that Jewish person who just got beat up by the robbers, if he hadn't gotten beaten up, he could care less about that Samaritan. But now the one person he could care less about is the one who comes and helps him. And he didn't just help him. He grabbed him. He took him somewhere safe. He gave his own money to help him get better. Then he said, look, when I get back, if you need more money, I'll give you more money to make things all right, make sure things are right. So now we see someone who wasn't loved, wasn't respected. He, out of his own pocket, does something tremendous. He expects nothing back. And what happened there is we realize Jesus is going, your neighbor is everyone. Every human being should be treated with that kind of value. Every human being should be treated with that kind of sacrifice to show love. And that's what we don't do. We don't want to sacrifice out of ourselves and show love. We don't want to value each other the right way. As long as it doesn't touch my doorstep, it's not my problem. I don't know if you remember this, Todd. You and I know Jeff's younger than me and a little younger than you. But I remember growing up and there was this song, red, yellow, black, white. Now, I don't want to offend anybody, so I'll throw this in. Red, yellow, brown, black, white. We're all precious in his sight. We used to sing that song. I don't see that today. I don't see it. I don't see us treating people like they're our neighbors. I don't see us treating people like they're human beings.
Right.
And so I find that until we wake and shake people up and let them see in their hearts what's really in there, we won't break the cycle.
Yeah. So
because if you're
this is good.
I'm sorry,
Geno.
I just want to say, if you'll focus on buildings being destruction of buildings more than the destruction of a life, there's something wrong.
Yeah. And this is good because one of the discussions that I've been in recently is, you've got folks who say Black Lives Matter and then there's all lives matter. And I think it's a good discussion because right now at this moment in time, I believe that it's really certainly come to the forefront that Black Lives Matter. And then we've got all lives matter. And there's this debate. And where are you guys at with that as far as, is it all lives matter? Is it black? I mean, obviously all lives matter. We all know that, right? No one's like, no one.
First, Jeff.
You
go first, Jeff.
Tell them about Luke 15.
There we go. Now we're talking. And because that's a question I get, and this is the conversation that I want to make sure that I'm asking the tough questions, because those are the questions Geno, you and I have talked about this. I'm opening it publicly of I was like, all lives matter, of course. Well, yeah, but right now, in the heart of it, you got to reach your hand out to your fellow brothers and sisters because they're down. The Black community is hurting. It's like Black Lives Matter. It's acknowledging the fact that there's so much pain and anger, as Jeff said.
Here's an example, and can follow up if he wants to. Let's say there's 10 houses in the neighborhood.
There you go.
And none of them are fine. And there's that 10th house on the very end of the street that's on fire. And the fire department comes and puts water on all 10 houses. But the only house that needs fire put out is the house on the very end. That's us. Mm-hmm. That's the Black community.
Mm-hmm. And white privilege was the other 10 houses that didn't need the water. They got the water. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're feeling. And here's the thing, when you talk about the Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, Todd, you heard me. I said, look, I'm not on your side. I'm not on my side. I'm on God's side. That's the only right side. And then we'll get in this discussion about, someone goes, Black Lives Matter. And then someone goes, well, all lives matter. And so we just address that with the fire in the house scenario. Here's my struggle. It goes even a little deeper. My problem with going Black Lives Matter is that what I feel happens in the white community is that when people want to acknowledge that, you're acknowledging it in a place of concession, like you're conceding that all Black Lives Matter, instead of the revelation that, yes, you and I are absolutely standing on equal ground. I don't need you conceding anything to me like that. I know how much my life matters because I know who I am in God. But what I'm saying is you're missing the boat. You're blind. You're conceding, well, okay, yeah, all lives matter, but really we should be saying Black Lives Matter, but we should be saying all that. No. See, no, you need the revelation that all lives matter. We're yelling Black Lives Matter because you don't see it.
That's great. Jeff, anything to add on that?
No, it's just, people take the stance that we're saying Black Lives Matter, we're discrediting all other people. No.
Right. Good. Yeah.
Well, Jeff said, he said, tell him Luke 15. Well, that's the parable of the lost sheep. There were 100 sheep. One ran off. Jesus left the 99 to go find the one. Well, the 99 go, hey, why'd you leave us? Well, you're okay.
Yeah.
You're fine. Be secure. I'm going to get this one that's lost, and the wolves could eat it up and destroy it. I'm going to get the one that needs to be saved. You're not in need of saving right now.
So let me ask you this question, because this obviously with history, and guys, I those of you listening in, I know these are tough questions, but this is the narrative that some of the questions that I've had over the last couple of weeks since George Floyd's murder. And I've talked to guys like Geno. I've talked to a lot of people in the Black community about this, of trying to understand all of it and where I'm at and how do I get better. But why does George Floyd's killing, what resonates so much with our country now than all of the other previous killings? Why now? Jeff, maybe you could address first. I mean, there's been a lot of innocent black men and women who have been killed. What is it about the George Floyd killing that resonates with everyone? I mean, this country is as hot as it's ever been. Why now? What's going on?
I think there's multiple factors, but Todd, I think one is, and we talked about it earlier, as far as being on our front porch, our doorstep. This was on our doorstep because of COVID. Mm-hmm. We couldn't run away from it. You know, typically, once again, something happened, it gets a little immediate attention. We go back to our business. We go back to playing sports. We go back to our job. We go back to raising our families. With COVID and not really anything to do, and then the country's still, you know, kind of closed, we couldn't run away from it. You know, white people couldn't run away from it. Like, it was in our face. It was in your face, and you had to deal with it. Like, America had to deal with this situation. And the image of a man being killed by a knee, gasping for his last breath, yelling out his mom, who, by the way, passed away 2 years prior. It just was in your face. You can't run away from that image. And it was the first time where the American people, our country, had to sit there and see it and talk about it because we had no outlets.
That's a great point.
So that's, to me, among other factors, but I think for me, that was a huge one that played into it.
Mm-hmm. Gino, how about yourself?
And I think the blatantness of it. I mean, there's many other times we've seen certain things that were filmed or videoed, or this guy was stopped by the car, and well, what did he have gun? Did he reach for something? Did he do? There's always people wanting to. Well, we didn't get the full story. No, we got this full story. We got to see him get handcuffed, walk, and sat down on the sidewalk, and then he's picked up and taken up, and the next thing we know, he's not loose. He's still handcuffed. I mean, you can't get away. I can break your arm in handcuffs if you twist the wrong way or do something.
Right.
Next thing you know, he's on his face by the cruiser, and for 8 minutes, his knee is on. So, and everybody gets to watch this for 8 minutes. And then people don't do something that should have done something. And then people are doing what you were asking. I mean, I'm only imagining, my gosh. Yeah, I would have had to run. Would I ran over there and tackled that dude? Would I did something? Would have gotten me shot? I'm wondering, what are these people thinking? So they think my only recourse, pull my phone out and film it. And now this is where we sit. And it because it was so blatant, it was like saying, I don't give a damn. I'm sorry, but I don't care. I don't care that you're filming me. I'm not gonna move my. And look at it didn't bother him one iota. He just stayed there, and it just was so sobering that. And because, like Jeff said, I couldn't run out the door because I had to rush off to work and ignore it. I couldn't. I didn't have a deadline I had to meet because I'm stuck. I'm quarantined. I'm sequestered. And now, no matter where I turn, whether it's ESPN, CNN, MSNBC, whether GNN, the CNN, whatever it is, it's there. You can't run away from it.
Well said. Jeff King, I know I'm going to end it with this for you because I know you have precious little daughters that you've got to pick up soon and do a heck of a job as a father as well.
Thank you.
If there were action steps that we can take, I wouldn't say we, all of us, we could take, but in the white community, but and so you all know, in the Impact podcast, you know, we've got fire-breathing dragons from all countries, all ethnic backgrounds, all races, all beliefs. It's a very diverse crew here. But from where we're at right now in America, what would be a couple action steps maybe that we can leave with today, Jeff, so that, man, we could be better and we could do better?
I think one, just acceptance that this is not just a Black community problem. This is this is an American problem. So we have to take responsibility to that. Whether you're African Americans, we can't. African Americans, our community, we can't make change on our own. We've tried that, and it hasn't happened. So everyone who lives in this country needs to galvanize and come together and realize this is our problem. This is not the Black community problem. Yes, we are affected the most, but in order for this to change positively, everyone has to be on board. Now, how did we do that? One, having this dialogue, and having being open and letting people, speak their minds, and then just, being humble. Like, you know what, I didn't know. You know what, I wasn't aware. Like, it's okay. Like, humble yourself to realize, okay, I was not aware. I was living in a bubble. I only saw things in a myopic view. It's, from that standpoint, just admit to that. Then from there, once we have this dialogue, become educated about how we got to this point, how we've been oppressed over centuries and centuries. And then once you kind of have this education and understand, how we've been viewed and looked at over the years, then what can you do in your platform, in your position? If you're in a corporation, how can you make your corporation more diverse? How can you use your resources to help out the communities that are in need? Because a lot of times we just stay in our bubble. Let's say Scripps Ranch, for instance, where I work, where Fitness Quest Center at. A lot of times we just stay in the Scripps Ranch bubble. People live there. And I had a client who came to me and she's like, you know what, I do a lot of church work, at my, local church, but they don't need me. I mean, it's nice to have it, but I'm needed in other communities who's less fortunate, who need more resources.
Yes.
So I'm going to reach out and use my resources to where they're needed. So I think if we just do that and commit it, because it's not going to be changed overnight and it's not going to take weeks or months, it's going to be a long process. This is 400 years, so if we have this idea that's going to change overnight, then we're sadly mistaken. Montgomery bus boycott, 381 days, of day in, day out work. So I think we just have a commitment and keep this energy that we have and listen and educate. I think at some point we'll be able to make some progress and have a dent.
Yeah. That's great wisdom, Jeff. I want to ask Geno the same question. Before I do that, though, I know, Jeff, you've got to check out. What's the best place that someone could follow you, Jeff? Maybe we lost him.
Thank you, TD.
Yeah, Jeff, you there?
Yes, sir.
What's the best place someone could follow you on social media or wherever you're putting out great content?
Instagram handle at Coach J King, and Facebook Jeff King, and just pretty much there. Just like I said, I'm open for dialogue and conversation, and just getting this world better, and just having racial equality and making positive change.
Well, thank you for being here today, Jeff, and again, go get those girls. And
thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Well, I can't wait to see you, man. I can't wait to see you and give you a big hug.
I know, man. Perfect. Yes.
A real hug.
All right.
Take
All right,
care.
JK.
So Geno, how about you on the same thing, Geno? Again, folks, this is real talk, right? This is just a couple days before this episode airs, and we're having real talk. And I asked Pastor Gino Mingo to come in today with one of our top coaches, Jeff King, to talk about all of these different topics that are swirling in our heads. And a couple of days, like, I don't know the answers. Sometimes you want to crawl in a hole and do nothing. It's like, I don't know. Like, it'd be easier just like, I don't know, so I'm going to do nothing. And I've just taken the stance of, I'm going to try to do something. My something isn't perfect. I don't know all the answers. I'm trying to open up dialogue between people so that I and we can better understand each other. And I think hopefully this episode today has done that. Geno, how about you as far as your answer to that?
Man, well, Todd.
Action steps. What can we be doing?
Man.
Yeah, what can we be doing?
It's interesting. When you asked me that, I remember having this analogy really come to my mind regarding football. We all go and want to join a team. And, right now, I wanted to know every Black person is on team change. And what I saw with football is this, man, when we got there for two-a-day camps, there's always that dreaded test that we have to do. Ours was called the Beaver Run, this long shuttle run. And what I remember is there was always coaches were there to hold us accountable. And here's the thing, I want to say to white people, you got to be willing to be held accountable. And you got to be willing to come and not have us pursue you. You got to be willing to want to come and change. I was willing to go through the grueling 2 days of, I was willing to do that Beaver Run because I had something that I wanted. There was a goal I wanted, all American, all Pac-10, get to the pros. And we had coaches there to keep us accountable. I had a friend go, yeah, but Geno, what about those that don't want? I go, listen, when we ran the Beaver Run, all the receivers had to make it in a certain time. And while the receivers and wide receivers and DBs were running it, we all stood on the sideline and cheered our teammates on. And then it was time for the linebackers and the D linemen, the quarterbacks, the running backs, and the receivers, and them, they stood on the sideline and cheered us on. And the coaches stood there with the watch and held us accountable. And if you didn't make your time, you had to run it again. And if you didn't make it, you had to run it again until you made it. And I don't mean to bring this in, but it's like, look, when someone messes up, you know what? Don't give them a death penalty. What you do is you make them run the run again, and you stand there and you hold them accountable and you encourage them and you spur them on. And if there's that one that doesn't ever make it and they don't want to put forth the effort to make it, then you know what? They're relegated to the sideline, just like it would happen on a sports team. But the ones who did run the time and did put forth the effort to make the time and did want to be on the team and did want to link up for a common goal of winning the championship, we're going to run and we're going to cause a groundswell to overtake this insidious cancer we're fighting. So it comes down to me, the action step is one. You already know Black people are ready for change. So we're going, are you ready to walk with us and make sure this change takes place? Do I got to run you down, or will you actually come up and engage with me on a conversation of substance? On what, how can I educate you? How, you know, my thing with this being a Black man, I go, listen, if you're white, you want to disarm. We're already like, okay, back up, neck up. You don't understand me. What you don't understand why this is. You think we're just looting because people are thugs, and you don't know why there's no. What you need to do is disarm the Black community in the sense where you go, look, I don't know everything. I'm wrong. Even if I haven't treated you that way, I'm wrong because in my history and my culture, I've benefited from this and I didn't do anything to stop it, so I'm wrong. But now help me. How can I help right this wrong? How can I do this? Teach me how to see this correctly. See, now you've disarmed me. And now I get to hold you accountable. And I get to teach you about what not to say. The best thing to say is, well, I got a Black, one of my best friends is Black. Well, that's great. Okay. But how have you helped him? How have you, I tell people all the time, while you're on the moving sidewalk, I'm on the concrete trying not to miss my flight. See, people don't get it. There's this automatically, because of white privilege, there's a moving sidewalk, like in the airport. I love getting on that thing. It helps you. You know what I mean? All right, woo, I don't have to sweat and run down to the gate. There's 35 gates down there, but I got.
Come on, Geno, that's part of your exercise program.
It is. It is. But if I'm late, it helps.
Sure does.
Well,
sure does.
What? Black people are like, well, I don't have the option to get on, spiritually, metaphorically, in a racial situation, the option to get on the moving sidewalk.
Yeah.
And so we're going, look, would you invite me? Can we both get on this moving sidewalk? Can we both make the plane on time? And can we both have the same opportunity to better our lives and to not feel like I owe somebody something because of my skin color?
So how does that conversation look like? Well, is that something that you think someone asks a Black man or woman to? Like, how does that conversation start, right? So let's say there's a white person that wants that conversation, but perhaps they don't either work in a diverse community or they've never really had a really in-depth conversation and they're walking on eggshells. What would you say how they best approach someone to have that conversation?
Well, like you said, if they're not accustomed to being in an environment where there's a lot of, if they know one, then get past your fear, reach out to them, say, listen, can we get some coffee? I need you to help me see this correctly. I need you to give me the right ammunition to even get you to even trust that I might actually be on your side. And so you do it with me all the time. I mean, but it's so natural well, Geno, what do you think about this? How do you see this? Well, what would you say to that? See, those things right there, they automatically give us the opportunity to be seen, to be heard, and to be felt. The minute you dismiss anything I say, the minute you dismiss me because I say Black Lives Matter, you know what? We're back in the Charlie Brown cartoon with the teacher. Wah, 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 wah. And that's what we see, and we go, oh, see, you're not hearing. You hear me, but you're not listening. That's what you're hearing me, but you're not listening. So when we go, not just out of we'll just be so cliche. Well, we gotta listen. No, I mean, when we truly go, you truly listen to what I'm saying, and you don't make an excuse for how you think or feel about it. I'm glad you got an opinion, but wrong is wrong. Don't justify anything that happened. Yeah. See, that thing when you say to me, oh, but things are better now. I'm like, look, man, LeBron James, you pick it. What black men, Michael Jordan, they're not the norm for the black community. The successful black athlete is not the norm for the black community. Denzel Washington's not the norm for the black community. That hip hop artist is not the, Jay-Z, the billionaire, is not the norm. We're talking about the norm. Don't think because they got something so great, oh man, we're all bathing in it. No, we're not. And so if you don't understand that, then you don't understand where I'm at and what my plight is. Right. But if we can come to that place of understanding, that kind of conversation, for instance, Michelle and I are pastors. We just said today at lunch, when school's over Tuesday, we want to take our 5 daughters, our 5 beautiful black, white, mixed daughters, and we want to take them somewhere and serve. And we both looked at each other because obviously my church is extremely small. We both looked at each other and we said, but we don't want to go to some church and just join in with this church and do something. Because see, it's not about me just going to church, it's about me being the church. Preach now. And so we want to go somewhere where people are just in need. And I'm like, good, I'm gonna call some friends of mine that may know some places we can go and do that. See, that's our problem. We always want to go to what we look like or where we're comfortable. For the white person right now, you have got to submit and allow yourself to become as uncomfortable as you possibly can be. Then you might start to walk in my shoes a bit, and then we can make change.
That's profound right there. We always talk about cliches, getting comfortable being uncomfortable, right? That's we use it in this here is how you do that, right? And here's the bottom line: these conversations can be very uncomfortable, right? These are new, even for myself, Geno. And I've talked to you about this. It's like, you know what? I don't know the answers, and for people who have a lot of anger and hate right now, and trust me, I feel and understand. Again, as Jeff was saying, I feel it. I've seen it. I've experienced it, and the conversations are crucial. I think that's important.
I'm as uncomfortable at times as you are. I mean, think about this. We've been doing stuff online and having conversations and things. And I think about all the people I know up here at the FQ10 Sanctuary who's never encountered Geno at this level. I don't know who's going to watch this, who's watching stuff that we're going to, and I'm going, wow, what are they going to think of me now? Because they're just used to seeing me smiling, beating Todd, playing rebounder. You're just used to me sweating and us laughing and giggling and having fun and high-fiving and chest bumping. But now, man, the rubber's met the road, and we got to look at each other in the eye. We got to look in the mirror and be honest about who we are, and then go, do I really love you? Even if you said something that kind of rubbed me like a cat the wrong way, do I still love you? And that's hard for all. That's uncomfortable for all of us. Is someone going to be afraid to come talk to Geno now and bring this up? Or I'm hoping they run up and go, can we talk about this? You said this, and I don't know that I agreed with you, Geno, when you said that. Can we talk about it? And I'll be like, oh man, let's chop it up. Yeah, let's get after it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing is you always hear me all talk about light and love and what we can do. I also want to make sure that I share and communicate with you on the opposite of love is hate. and I understand there is some very, very strong feelings right now. Not only at Fitness Quest 10 will I always come from a place of love, but I think what happens is this trying time is testing all of us of our core values and who we really are. Why? What do I mean by that? Well, it would be really easy right now to not say that much or have these conversations, even here on a podcast today. This wasn't the planned podcast. I was like, I want to get this word out and have this conversation because why? Well, because at the end of the day, what am I chasing? Am I chasing dang likes and like I want someone listening and I like this podcast or that, or is it am I being obedient to my whispers? I talk about tapping into the whispers all the time. Tapping in the whispers is like, hey, there is no more important conversation right now that God's putting on my heart is you got to get outside your comfort zone. You got to have conversations that are going to be more difficult. You're going to feel and see more hate than you've ever faced in your entire life. And that's all been in the last week. Like, and that's just nothing like compared to the big picture of what's gone on in the world for hundreds of years. So for me, it's interesting, but it's like right now, how do we tap into that purpose of like, how can I best serve and love right now? How can I best serve and love? And just like a family, sometimes with a family, you don't want to tell your wife you're frustrated or upset. You just want to kind of throw it under the rug and it's sooner going to fester. And it's like, you know what, I'm not going to deal with it now. I'll deal with it later. And this is this, same thing. It's like, you know what, you could not talk about it. You could not say anything, but sooner or later it's going to come to the head, which right now it's at a head and we can certainly get through it. Man, I just want to thank you, Geno, for how you're showing up. You've been praying with our Fitness Quest 10 community several times a week, including on Sundays. Here we are doing, a podcast episode with you and Jeff to really be able to be a voice that I wanted to hear just again, so that we could have this discussion, on the Black community and the conversation of white and Black and brown, and how can we support the Black community right now and Black Lives Matter and everything that's going on. I think it comes back to the GOD. What can we do to be a better vehicle of God's love? How can we get through it? I think it's the only way that we're going to get through this is really like tapping into prayer and coming from love and making sure that we understand the hate, we understand the anger, we understand all that. But man, at the end of the day, we've got to find a way to put our hands out to you and say, man, brother, sister, I love you. I'm going to pull you up or pull you down, whatever it is. We're going to join hands, join arms. We're going to come together and we're going to get through this together stronger.
Man, so true, Todd. One of the things I've noticed is we use the word love, and a question for me is, when does your love become hypocritical?
Ooh, I like that.
And I think about 1 John chapter 4, verse 20, where John says, if you say you love God and you hate your neighbor, your brother, then you're a liar. So now I challenge all of us when we look in the mirror and we check our hearts and we do a gut check and we look in the mirror and we ask ourselves, is there anyone I'm hating? Is there anyone I'm not valuing correctly? Then we'll start to see if our love is hypocritical or not. And when we get to that point, then I feel we can really start to hold one another accountable. I got to tell you, and soberly as an example of this, as a Black person, I always think about how strenuously people, and mainly white people, wanted Michael Vick held accountable for killing those dogs. And they sent him to jail. And when he got out, I mean, he had to pay a price. Money was gone. He had to promise to work with PETA and this group and that group and talk. And he was working. And if he didn't do that, he wasn't going to get back in the NFL. He was held accountable. And I just want to know, as much as I love dogs, I will lay on the floor and wrestle with Jersey and at your house. And I can't wait to buy my boxer when we move into a bigger house and have a yard. But boy, how much more should we force each other and hold each other accountable to make sure that we value life equally, the same way, because all lives do matter. But remember, right now, there's one that's on fire, and that's Black lives. Black lives matter because of that fact. And so I just want us to hold each other accountable. Love ain't really love until it's hurting sometimes, right? You know that.
Preach there, yeah.
So we'll know we're loving when we're sacrificing to our own hurt because we're giving to somebody else. That's what the Good Samaritan did. His love was to the point of sacrifice, and he didn't expect or get anything back for what he did for that person that got jumped. He just wanted to make sure they got what they needed.
Geno, do you mind if we just close in prayer, man?
Oh, please.
I'll start it off. You can finish it, man.
Amen, brother.
All right. Thank you for joining in here for the last couple of minutes of the podcast. Hey, Father, man, thank you so much just for this conversation with Jeff King, a man who's been by my side for 13 years at Fitness Quest 10, has just served so admirably. And for Pastor Gino Mingo, with a wife and 5 daughters. Bless his heart and his soul and his patience and his sanity and everything else that he's got to deal with every single day. And God, right now, I just ask that you just give us your love, your forgiveness, our repentance, that you bless the Black community, specifically all of those who are hurting, all those people who are so desperately hurting right now. Please give everyone more understanding, more patience, and just to understand the other side, the perspective, and give us grace. Give us grace. The word that keeps coming to me is grace. How can we get through this and be better? Be better men and women and servants of God. I just thank you so much for our blessings. But I ask most importantly that we can continue to come with an open heart and not be so quick to judge people's opinions of us, and that we could just keep loving and loving and loving. Geno?
Yes, Father, I agree with that totally, and I thank you, Lord, for Todd and other brothers and sisters of mine of a lighter hue that are willing to jump into the deep end of the pool regarding the condition of our nation right now, willing to fight to make things right. Lord, your word says that God is love, which means if we have you in our hearts, then we have love. I often think of that Beatles song that says, all we need is love. But Lord, I want to rewrite that lyric. All we need is God's love, the right love. And so I'm just asking that you open up the doorways for your love to flood in, that people would drop their guards, that they knock down the fences, that we could truly get into each other's lives and do life together to right this horrific wrong. Lord, George Floyd was the straw that broke the camel's back, and it happened during this time, I believe, as we have a coronavirus pandemic. I believe we have a racial pandemic and even a spiritual pandemic going on in this nation, and I believe you're truly the only answer for those pandemics to be squashed completely. So we just call on you right now, Lord, and we say, help us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, amen, amen. Geno, thank you. Thank you for everyone listening in to today's episode. Thank you. And thank you for listening with an open heart and mind. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of work for all of us to continue. I will be working on a resource guide, so to speak, that I'm gathering from people like you listening in. If you've got books that you're reading, podcasts that you're listening to, in addition to this one, I want to be able to share that with our community here. By all means, we have a long ways to go for us to get better and better and better. And I want to see the resources that we could continue to offer and use on that. And I'm committed to that myself, of listening to more podcasts and getting outside my specific podcasts and workshops and seminars, and having conversations with people in my life and outside of my circle that I can better understand as well. And Gino, you hit the nail on the head with, there's so many families who are hurting right now, victims, not only with George Floyd, but victims from many, many years. And I pray for all those people today, and of all races as well, that are really, really hurting. And today specifically, I know in the Black community that the Floyd family certainly is going through just, I can't imagine. I can't imagine the pain and anguish that they feel. But I hope that this discussion today certainly opened up some hearts. It opened up some hearts.
Yeah.
I've gotten emotional several times, not only today during this episode, but just the pain I see. And I hate seeing people in pain, man. I hate seeing people in pain. And I know it takes going deep, but that's where it's at. We got to stay there. We got to feel the pain. I think it feels, sometimes you got to feel that pain. You got to feel it to know it, what it's like, in order for us to make the changes that are necessary.
Yes. Todd, thank you for the opportunity, TD, my brother, for having me on here and to chop this up with you. I appreciate you and love you, man.
Where can someone find more about Gino Mingo, Pastor Gino Mingo? Because the world needs more Gino Mingo.
Oh, man, Facebook, Twitter, Geno.Mingo, IG, at Geno-Mingo, I think it is. But on all those social platforms, you can find me.
Well, thank you for all that you're doing. Continue to put out the good word and the truth, man. I so appreciate our relationship. I can't wait to get back to Fitness Quest 10 and competing in the rebounder. I don't care if it's wins or losses. I just want to compete, man.
Me either.
I just want to get back to competing and that stuff. So, guys, have an incredible day, and I hope this conversation with Coach Jeff King and Pastor Gino Mingo was a breath of fresh air. And I know there was some heavy discussion and some tough questions, but these are the types of conversations that we all need to have now. And know that I'm a resource for you as well. Regardless of what country you live in, where you live, your ethnicity, your background, your beliefs, man, I want to put my hand out to you, and I want to reach out to you and say, I love you. I'm here for you. That this podcast and everything I'm putting out right now certainly is where I'm at and how I'm continuing to evolve. And I'm certainly not perfect, and I will make mistakes. I'm a sinner, and I will continue to make mistakes, not on purpose, but just because I want to take action. So I thank you for listening in today. If you found value in today's episode, please share it. Please share it with your community. White, black, brown, please share it with your community so that we can have more conversations, to have the difficult conversations that are so tough to have. So, Gino, any final words?
No, man, just I said this to you the other day. We were born for such a time as this. So if you're on this earth breathing, know God intended you to make a change, to be a difference maker, a thermostat, not a thermometer.
Ooh, man, well said. My friends, have a great day. And yes, go out there and be the thermostat, right? Be the thermostat and keep leading, keep loving, and keep creating impact. I love you guys all, and have an incredible day. Peace.